Hi, this is Tony from Great Lake Swimmers, and you're listening to From the Music Shed.
Welcome to From the Music Shed, a podcast in which we invite musicians to drop by for conversation and music. Damien Youth has been making music in rural Louisiana for decades, gathering a sizable worldwide cult audience along the way. His material spans multiple genres and defies easy definition. He has fronted many bands through the years, each very different from the preceding, as well as performing uncounted solo shows. His mostly self-recorded material began being distributed through homemade cassette tapes before evolving to the CDR format, and now through online digital sales. Damien has also participated in collaborations with other artists, perhaps most notably with Peter Daltrey of Kaleidoscope and David J. of Bauhaus and Love and Rockets. Today, we make an attempt to scratch the surface of the enigma that is Damien Youth. Okay, so after Featherbox was The Strange Machine, which only had 3 gigs. And that was quite a line. You had a couple of carryovers from Featherbox, but why did that band implode so quickly?
That's a good question. Oh, I know why. That's right about the time that Johnny was trying to get me a deal on the West Coast as a solo artist. Mm-hmm. And because I remember after we did our Strychnine Temple, Strange Machine photo shoot, I had to run off and hop on an airplane and fly to Los Angeles. And they mailed me the recordings we did. I wasn't even in the same state anymore. And I came back after a month, and then we played a couple of shows and did like the radio spot. And I kept leaving. I mean, I guess I can take the blame for that not lasting. And I really liked that band.
Yeah, definitely.
But I was just, I signed a contract with A-Train. And so they kind of owned me for a little while. And it was a good experience. I mean, they took care of me, but
nothing ever came out from that.
No, A-Train folded. And I won't go into it because I'm trying to respect all the people involved.
Sure.
But it was really that the main guy who owned it, like he was dating this girl who's really into drugs, and she was a tattoo artist, and he owned a tattoo magazine, and he fell in love with her. And she started turning all of his money into junk. And then he didn't have as much money anymore. And so A-Train folded.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories like that. Well, that plays into this question.
I wasn't going to say that, but then I was like, why not?
That's right. Nobody will ever hear it. But that plays into this question, because one thing that people ask me about you a lot is why you haven't had a record deal. But there's been interest, which of course we know, but there was something with Warner Brothers and Camera Obscura that I remember, but I don't ever know how did that play out?
The Warner Brothers thing, the reason that it was a spec deal, it was a speculation deal, and apparently I was difficult to work with. But I just didn't like the finished product. I didn't like our demo that we cut. And Featherbox, they were kind of like sending them off to the green room because they were they courted us as a band. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of retired my band and had me there with a bunch of studio musicians. And it just didn't sound the same.
No, I mean, the players in Featherbox were very unique in style. I mean,
it's chemistry.
Yeah.
And it's not about it. I mean, we knew each other. So I knew that I can show up with these guys with an acoustic guitar and a melody, and we were going to turn it into music.
Sure. I mean, to this day, I can hear a Chris Zimmer guitar line and know it's Chris Zimmer. I mean, you take that away, and I don't know. You like you said, you lose the chemistry.
Yeah, it was becoming a very slick Bruce Hornsby kind of production.
Ooh.
And it was nothing that I was. In fact, I can't even listen to the demos that I did of myself. And I used to like the demos because it was just me and a little cheap Casio keyboard, very lo-fi. And I was in my dream world. But when we tried to realize that dream with the wrong people, it was like bad sex.
Right. Well, whatever happened with the Camera Obscura thing?
I've had a few labels. There was like Triple X too. Mainly when Johnny and A Train took over, trying to get me with different labels. He thought we should hold out often and get a better deal, and so we actually passed up some deals. Camera Obscura, I think. I can't remember. It seems like they were around doing Phantoms of Fables, actually.
Yeah, that was right. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I just never wrote them back or something. I don't know. I really don't. I know that we did a distribution thing. They distributed some of Phantoms of Fables, and a few other places did too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't remember. I wish I did. I want to have something clever to say about it, but I'm dry on that because I don't really recall.
Well, we can always do part 2 sometime.
Okay.
All right, back to the band list. But first, we've mentioned Johnny 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah.
In case somebody who might listen to this won't know who Johnny is.
Johnny Indovina, who was on the scene a long time ago in the Models, and then he went to the West Coast and formed Human Drama, and now I think he just did a Human Drama reunion actually, but he's doing solo stuff now, and he's a really good producer, and a sweetheart, and a great bass player, and tall.
Yeah.
Red Ghost mother chased the screaming idiot savant out to the black chair room. High orifice devouring the empty space as carpet dust floats minuscule. Pre-surgical hysteria swells in the minds of lookers on. The waiting room is filled with crinkled eyes and unread magazine. The bathroom becomes refuge to the hypodermic recluse. White rooms wait for thee. And now I hear the silence of the sun as chatter blossoms faces come undone. Irreverent and bold and looking on. The faith they see, and I am the stage that they stare as they wait for the final play. And Dorothy pulled the call round, black suit silent sitting down through Market Street. As window blenders next to me churn signs and shops and autumn leaves, I fall asleep. As mediocre monuments unhinge and blend all Dali-esque, a park bench turns to elephants, amoeba pulse neath flower dress, streetlight glows like UFOs as rainbows show their pots of gold to tired thieves. As Clark and slow and dress the time of day, and morning's molestation starts to fade. The telephone rings, chatters what you say, and I am just the book that you read as you rough draft your autobiography. Should her theories fail to float, she'll quickly turn the other coat and side with me. And should she capsize far from shore on half-built rafts of metaphors, she'll drink the sea. The salty lie of lovers moan with belly full of suds and foam. She lies on bed of roots and stone, fish-eye nipples staring on. A lighthouse beckon cuts the fog, a mermaid bottom slow dissolves. She finds her fate and leaves like pure-eyed glistening gold into the fool. Distant stars are divination tools. astrology, the science to defy. She's reaching for the stars and the sun and the moon, for she fears what's inside the mind. Inside the mind.
Speaking of collaborating, how did the friendship and collaboration come about with David J?
That was kind of interesting because loosely it was Johnny Indovina, because Johnny Indovina was producing this guy named Michael Berg, and Johnny turned Mike Berg onto my music, and then Mike Berg knew David J, and he turned. Mike told me this story. He said he and David were riding in a car, and he was like, he played my music to David J, and he was like, the second song in, David turned the sound down, and he looked at Mike, and he's like, this guy's one of us.
Huh.
And so they contacted me, and they wanted to meet me. And I was playing the Kerouac Fest at that old hotel we bought off of eBay. So I was going to go play a show over there, and just, I thought, why not invite them? So I invited them to the party, and they accepted. And so my first meeting with David, they basically flew from the West Coast to the East Coast to come hang out in that old hotel with us.
Wow.
And I thought I had killed my phone earlier. Now you know why I rant about telephones.
Look, I've gotten phone calls during these interviews before, and I've just left them in because it's like,
what are you
hey,
going to... Everybody
happened.
identifies
Right,
with it.
exactly.
They're like, oh.
Well, since you brought it up, talk a little bit about the hotel that you once bought on eBay.
Really, I mean, I say I bought it on eBay, but we lost it. We lost the bid. Somebody else beat us. But we wanted it so bad that we kept pursuing it. And we found out that the people who won the bid didn't actually buy it. They went, saw the hotel, and turned it down. And so we contacted the seller and said, you don't have to put it. We'll pay what they bid. So we got, with our friend Blair Murphy, a filmmaker in Los Angeles, we went in as partners, Elizabeth Black, myself, and Blair, and basically tried to transform this old abandoned hotel in the middle of nowhere into an art scene, kind of like what I was doing with the compound on Little Italy. Usually when I see a rural area, I assume that there's some interesting people in the woods somewhere, but they have nowhere to go. So the idea was to take this building that's empty and make it a beacon for artists. And when we would find out there was an artist or a musician in the area, we would pursue them. Like that's how we met Paul Peck, my bass player. We found out that people told us about him. And so we literally went to his apartment and knocked on his door, told him who we were, where we lived, and said, we have a room for you. You don't have to pay rent. Could you come and transform the room with because he would do also decorate rooms and stuff. Could you just come take over a space in our hotel, concentrate on your art, and transform this room? And we felt like if we did that to every room in the hotel, that basically it would get renovated by people, that would be their job. But at the same time, they could do it at their leisure, and they can do it to suit their own tastes, provided we handpicked the people who did it.
Right.
And it worked. And to this, we ended up selling our half. Betsy and I sold our half to Blair, but we still go there and play shows, and people like David J. or Eddie Munster. That's kind of why we separated. I love Blair, but Blair is a movie buff, and I was the music guy. So to him it was like, oh, let's, we're gonna get Eddie Munster, and I'm like, I'll make it David J. So.
Okay.
We had different visions.
We'd be remiss if we didn't bring up the legendary Walter Gould's Lavender Brigade, which was a fake 60s band that you put together that many people thought was real for a long time.
Yeah, for a while, and we really didn't think anybody would totally believe it because we were using like electronic drum pads to do drums, and I mean we tried to give it a real sound, but yeah, basically it was Zane from The Strange Machine, and we loved psychedelic music, so we would go to his house and drink beer, and he had a pool table. We'd play pool and listen to 60s psych, obscure stuff, Kaleidoscope, that stuff. And we were like making up songs while we were hanging out. And we were like, let's record songs. And at the time, we didn't even have that idea that we would do that. But then later we were like, maybe we should take these recordings and act like we just found them in a basement or something. Like we bought this house and there were these old tapes and they're cool. And we sent it to, a friend of ours said, send it to Twist Records in Germany. They love stuff like this. And so it was a guy named Dennis Dowson who told us that. And so we sent the tapes off, and I got a phone call within a week from Frank at Twist Records, and he was like, don't do anything. Hang on. We want to release this. And so we did a vinyl release on Twist in Germany. And yeah, for a while there was debate, like, is it really tapes? And other, our enemy really were the people who knew better because they were mad at us. They were like, we're trying to trick them or something. And we were like, look, we really didn't think anybody would be fooled. We weren't trying to pitch it like that. But Twist Records really loved doing that.
Right.
So at first we kind of angered our audience. But then later we started seeing better reviews. Like they came around and like, that's a pretty good song.
I still say there should be a Walter Ghouls Lavender Brigade live show at some point.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I would probably have to get the guys in Smiles and Frowns to come in and Zane. That would be a good lineup for a live show.
Well, from a fake 60s band to working with a real 60s legend who you mentioned earlier, how did the collaboration with Peter Daltrey from Kaleidoscope come about?
I came to them late. I really did discover Kaleidoscope kind of during those pool sessions. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't really grow up with Kaleidoscope. But when I heard it, I couldn't believe I hadn't grown up with it. It was right there with all the great 60s music that I loved. And I couldn't believe I'd never heard of it. And that worried me because I always think that for myself, like if I'm just really good, eventually someone, even if it's not in my lifetime, will get it. And this guy was fantastic, and I didn't hear anybody talking about him. And so I found him online, and I'd written a song for him, or about him, really. Not even for him. I looked at him and thought about his character, and I wrote this song, The Boy in the Butterfly Shirt, and I sent it to him. And I was surprised he wrote me back and loved the song and said, can I cover it? And I was like, yes. And so he sent me, it was just fun. It was a dream come true. In fact, it opened up a new relationship with my records. Now I can actually, that's what I love about technology. Mm-hmm. Now instead of just listening to your records, you can find the people that made your records, contact them, have interaction with them, and have them sing your songs back at you, or at least that's my relationship with records. Right. So it was beautiful having, sitting down and listening to him sing a song that I wrote. That was just, I couldn't believe that was happening in my lifetime. And
y'all did 3 albums together.
Yeah.
Without ever having met?
Yeah, we only met. We haven't done an album since we've met. Hey, what does that mean? No, we're currently working on things, but it's really my fault. I'm having all kind of psychological issues. But sometimes it hurts to even like hold a guitar for me. Sometimes I don't know why. I feel like I morphed into something else, and so sometimes I have to struggle to maintain who I establish myself as being. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, Peter's like waiting. And I'm having these struggles, but I felt bad though. But I knew this band called The Asteroid 4, who was this really good jangle pop band, and I played a show with them, and I knew that Peter should do one more kind of psychedelic record, but he kind of waves that off because he's moved on in his life. He's into other things, but he asked me. He was like, "Can we do one more kind of acoustic broken down record?" And I said, "I would love to, but I would like to do a deal. I'll write you a record if you'll consider one more kind of psych record with this band." And so we did that. And right now I'm I'm about to listen to. They just sent me the tracks, the finished album of the Asteroid 4,
Oh, cool.
featuring Peter Daltrey on vocals. So, but now it's like, it was a deal that I made.
Now you have to live up to your end of the bargain.
Right. So I have to do mine. But I don't want it to sound like I'm not honored to work with him, because I am. But that's why I don't want to give him just anything. I want to give him something that's beautiful. And I've been having writer's block, and I'm scared I'm going to write something beautiful and covet it and not want to give it to anyone. Like, I need that, because it doesn't come as often as it used to. Or maybe I'm just more picky about what I record.
Well, that plays into another question I had. Basically, is there anything new coming soon? Because the last full album was House Demos in 2009, and there have been a few tracks and EPs since then on the Bandcamp site, but no full project. So is that what's happening here?
I put The Citizen together, which was really a 4-song EP. Mm-hmm. And then I took some songs from some of those house demos and constructed an album out of it. But that's really the last thing I've made available. I do continue to record, but I listen with a lot of scrutiny, and I don't know. I must have liked the song to sit down and write it and record it, but sometimes when it's over, it's like, if I were a fan of me, is this what I want to hear my next thing be? And often it's no. It's like I want to do something different. Like, it's not what I want to make available, but I do still record and write.
Gotcha.
But I don't know other than the thing I have lined up with Peter. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't say what's next, other than live shows that I hate.
Okay. always try and ask one tough question. And if any of the other ones previous were tough, sorry, here's another one.
No.
You've said that you won't ever sell out. What is your definition of selling out?
I think, did I say that?
You have said that.
Okay.
Maybe not in so many words, but,
I know I've said it in songs. But
well, maybe that's where I'm getting it from. I don't know.
And I may have said it in conversation. There's certainly a part of me that would never sell out. But
what does that mean? I mean,
I think selling out means that somebody has found some aspect of you that they can make marketable. And so you just concentrate on that one aspect of your character. Like I wouldn't marry a genre. Like I have, that's one of the things I noticed when I went to New York. Like I had a psychedelic audience, I had a freak folk audience, and I had a gothic audience. And they don't like each other. Now when I play here, they'll all come in the same room and just sit in different sections and look at each other. But over there, they wouldn't go in each other's clubs. So when I was playing at CBGB's, there was like a goth club down the street who came over and was like reprimanding us like, your people are down there, And to me, it would be a sellout if I just embraced one aspect of what I do and neglected everything else.
Yeah, I can see that. Because, I mean, the artists that I have really embraced in my lifetime are the ones that don't do the same thing over and over again. Bowie's a great case. I mean, other than the Ziggy era, every album is pretty much a different thing.
Right.
And I do get bored. That's why I don't listen to ZZ Top. I mean, it's, you know what you're going to get every time. So I love it when an artist does something different on every album. I mean, to me, that's what keeps me interested.
Yeah.
You know?
And especially if somebody is a recording artist, to me, it should be their job to develop and evolve just like any other living organism. Just, you don't want to me, we struggle to establish ourselves. And then once we do establish ourselves, it can become an anchor. And I think that's my fear. I wouldn't want to just marry myself with one aspect of my audience and just cater to that.
Sure. And I mean,
I would be in hack.
Not everything has been released. I mean, there's some things that I've heard, tapes you've given friends and stuff. So there are rap songs. There's, I think, everything but a country song. I don't know if I've heard any like real country
I actually
songs.
did the Hermit song, country style, one time.
Oh, really?
With Dave Easley. I was like, play like some pedal, just straight pedal steel. Like, don't do strings with it, just play. And we did like a kind of a countrified. But yeah, I do hate country and rap as a genre, but every genre has its exceptions.
Sure.
So I don't like the template, but there are people who I love the Streets. That's a great band, or person really, and I love Johnny Cash. And so I like old country. When it didn't take itself too serious and put fun at itself.
For me, everything after like say 1980, 81 in country is just off the table.
Yeah, because it became like slick, middle of the road 70s rock.
Right.
Like
right.
The
with a pedal steel or a fiddle every now and then. Yeah.
And some guy who just has an accent like the guy who's working on my car.
Right. The accent is a prerequisite.
And that's kind of what determines it sometimes.
Right.
Because there have been times I stopped on the radio and I'm listening to the rock and roll intro and then this voice comes in, like, it's been a long time. And I'm like, what the? I've been duped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cut that part. The country voice.
You've moved recently, but so I don't know if you still do it, but tell us about Rock and Roll Church.
Rock and Roll Church, because my family, we don't have any religion, but it's good to have, I like to acknowledge the creative side of human beings. So that's what I love about the arts. Like, I don't believe in angels or demons or anything, but basically my family gets together at a coffee shop every Sunday, and sometimes friends join us and we play rock trivia, and we learn about rock and roll and different characters. To me, rock characters are kind of like our modern oracles, prophets. Mm-hmm. concerts are even like that. Like when you read about an angel presenting himself in the Bible, with fire, and I think we kind of mimic that in rock and roll. We create this angelic being that comes down and delivers a magical message to us and flies away to some mystical world. And I like that part of the human imagination. But I have a hard time being around people who think it's real. And that's why I have an issue with the whole religion thing. But still, you like community and you like ritual. So that's kind of what we do on Sundays. We just play rock trivia and laugh whenever my daughter knows people like Pat Travis.
Yeah, I see her Facebook postings, and she was posting the lyrics to Behind Blue Eyes a couple days ago.
Yeah, she plays it. She's up in her room, like with the guitar, playing it and making up songs. She loves Adam Green, like that's her hero.
Oh, wow.
She'll sit around and figure out his songs. And
have you ever thought of collaborating with Star?
Well, she gets mad when I talk about I can't find a guitar player or a bass player.
Really?
She starts getting upset with me. She was like, And I'm like, well, that I can bring into a nightclub.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So there's a story I've heard you tell before, and it's always kind of made me shake my head, but teachers are hired to teach math in math class and science in science class. So why were you kicked out of your church for teaching the Bible in Bible class?
Because really, religions, if you'll note, there are a lot of religions based on the Bible. And the reason is because the Bible can be used. You can cherry pick segments of the Bible to basically back up just about any agenda you want. Christ, if I want to prove that there's a capitalist Christ in the Bible, I can do that. I can find verses that support that, support slavery, support sexism. Or if you want to convince people that God wasn't about that, you can find verses to do that too. But what we wanted to do was not follow a map that our religion gave us. We just wanted to read the Bible from the beginning to the end. And so we started coming across verses that we weren't taught and started to discuss it. And some of the kids in the class would go home and discuss it with their family, and they had never heard of it. And so the classes became so interesting that nobody wanted to leave the class and go into the sermon.
Huh.
And so eventually they started coming back to see what was going on, and they were outraged, that we were taking this approach to reading the Bible, and they wanted us out.
You mean the approach of actually reading it?
Yes. Yes. Like, there are a lot of questions that we can't answer. We have to spend many hours in prayer, and our father, our preacher has done that, and you should be consulting him because he's almost like he's communicating with God, and he should tell you. You shouldn't try to figure this out on your own. You're too lowly and feeble. It's like, wait a minute.
And well, earlier you mentioned that the Walter Gould record came out on vinyl, and you had one other one, the black cover. Why am I blanking on the title?
Bride of the Asylum?
Bride of the Asylum was on vinyl, but
that was Blackberry Records.
Right. Which was something local?
No, that was a Chicago indie label, and it was put together by my friend Troy, who's a story all to himself because he's many people. He was the lead singer in Surprise Symphony, that project that I did.
Sure.
And he called himself Spider, I think, in that. And then we did an album as the Kite Brothers, Scott and Archie Kite, and he was the other guy. Mm-hmm. And then we did Magic Island. We did that album. We released Blackberry released an album called Horn by Chris Cologne, who was that kind of Syd Barrett character I was telling you from Crash Palace. And then, like, Troy wants to be obscure. So if people started catching on to us, like Blackberry Records started to build a little bit of a reputation, he wanted to change the name. He was like, we should go, lower, further underground. So he wanted to change it to Delta Records, which would be impossible to Google search.
Yeah.
And, Delta. And you've got Captain Kirk popping up. But he, and then I lost touch with him for a while. And we ended up on the same compilation album. There's an album called Pull Up the Paisley Covers, and it's a psychedelic compilation.
Sure, your
and
Bee Gees covers on there.
Yeah, the Bee Gees cover. And there's a band called Taurus on that compilation. And I was like, nah, I like that band, but the singer sounds familiar. And it turns out that was Troy. He formed a band called Taurus real quick and threw out like a couple of songs and then disbanded it. And he's a guy named Jim Collins. And he's like, and people think like some of his albums, they think they're from the 70s or something, like it's some obscure cult record from the 70s. But I love keeping up with his reviews, and that's just the stuff I know. He's probably got albums he doesn't tell me about.
Right. Well, the most recent release of yours was also on vinyl. It was your 1999 album Sunfield. It was on deluxe double vinyl. And how did that come about, and why Sunfield?
Really, it was this fellow named Bill O'Leary. He's a rock photographer. A lot of he's done stuff with Rolling Stone magazine before. He's a really good photographer. But he became a fan of that album in particular, and then of Walter Gould. He's kind of more into the psychedelic stuff. But he built a relationship with Sunfield, and he had the money to put it out. And he was like, I'd like to start my own little record label, and I'd love to release your albums. And he's like, I don't want anything from it. I'll pay to have it done. Just send me 50 copies of the albums and keep the rest. So we did like a low run, like just a few hundred. And actually that wasn't that long ago. It was just a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I've gone through most of my list already.
I'm not gay.
Well, that wasn't on here.
I have a gay following though, since Facebook.
Yeah, well, okay.
I
That's
poke
not
them.
on here,
Sometimes
but-
I poke them.
Well, you're very prolific on Facebook, deconstructing music and posting the song with the video and all that. And there's always tons of comments. I heard a rumor of a possible book. Is that really something you're working on?
I thought about doing that, but I'm so obsessed with just exploring. Like I started by taking a year, like I took the year 1965, and I said, I'm going, what if I just lived in 65 and all I could listen to was music from 1965? What would it be? And so I just started exploring that year. And then I carried on and did 1966. And I think I'm up to 1988 now or something. But I need to do that. It's therapy for me. Like I don't take any medication or anything. But when I spend a day around people, the kind of people that I'm around, I need to believe that people are doing something beautiful. And when I listen to people's music or explore their art or watch people trying to manifest their dreams, that's the group of people I want to assimilate with. And if I can't be surrounded by them, I just want to seek them out. And so it's become a therapeutic tool for me to kind of keep an artistic state of mind going, because it's not really nurtured in my environment. Because I'm not a jazz musician. I don't play Cajun music.
But I bet you could if you wanted to.
But yeah, I did get approached about maybe doing it as a book. And then somebody else approached me and said, I have a studio in New York, and I think it would be a really good radio show if you'd like to come in and record demos. And so I might meet with a guy over that and see what happens, because he thought it might be something, because I kind of have an angle on it. I talk a lot about sound genetics, and I've pitched myself as being a sound geneticist, which means that if I hear a sound that I really like in a song, I can trace it back, through its genesis, through other artists and through the years. And to the point where I was doing like Bowie's Bastards. Like
Right.
you take David Bowie and then you can follow elements of Bowie throughout different artists until you create like a tree of, not of players, but of sound genes. And I thought about writing a book about sound genetics or sound genes, like that kind of approach to deconstructing music and art. But who knows? I'll probably just do a lot of writing and a lot of talking And if I'm lucky, when I die, somebody will compile it into something cohesive.
Well, it happens. I mean, he hadn't died, but Kevin Smith is a prolific Twitter and blogger and all that kind of stuff outside of his films and everything else. And he's had 3 best-selling books that were just compilations of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it's a viable art form for sure.
It's also, you know, not that I want to just sit here and go on and on about Facebook, but it's a good place to do sanity check sometimes, you know? Like to kind of just share your thoughts, some of your deep thoughts with people, and see if anyone says, you know, you've lost it, you know? You need help, but so it's a lot of tools for me. I like the age I'm living in. I like this time period.
Thought you might like to know that the world is very cold and everything is a lie. And everything you do and say just empties into me and takes me far away. Hey, the girl from outer space blows my mind. She takes me through the sky, and all of the worlds soon collide. I'm falling down, then she comes on like some superstar from Mars, taking me over. She pulls on me serpentine, I take it over and over. The girl from outer space blows my mind. She points towards the sky, and all of the worlds soon collide. I'm falling down. We are moving on through outer space. All I see is a growing face, and everything is blowing away. Do, 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 do. Fa la la. Bum 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 bum. Do, 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 do. Da la la. Ba 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 ba. Then she comes on like a superstar from Mars, taking me over. She pulls on me serpentine, I feel it over and over. The girl from outer space blows my mind. She takes me through the sky, and all of the worlds soon collide. I'm falling down. Thought you might like to know that the world is very cold and everything is a lie. And everything you do and say just empties into me and takes me far away. Hey, hey, hey. That was the AM version.
I've got the pathway through the hemisphere all laid across my lap. Let's navigate a way to penetrate electric field. White mantis colonies persisting through the paralysis wheels. Starboards floating, me and the mantis people. Below shanty, we are the forest people. Scope and set it by my side. We come through windows, walls and ceilings, sprinkling moon dust in your eyes. Your body, it is sleeping, but your spirit's over there, swirling, unconscious and transparent like a sickness in the air. As we go floating, me and the mantis people. Milo Shanti, we are the forest people.
Rockin'.